Yeah, here we are, talking about Nintendo. It's just wonderful, isn't it? So, over the last week, we've had the Splatoon Global Test Fire, a rather idiosyncratic beta test of the game. And one of the things that emerged from the event was that basically, well, the resolution doesn't look as good as we maybe were hoping. Digital Foundry did a video on this where they went into some detail about the experiences they had with the game, both in handheld and when docked. And the long and the short of it is that Splatoon 2, when docked, currently runs at, wait for it, 720p. Yeah, just think about that for a second. In a world where the PS4 and the Xbox are pushing 4K, Splatoon 2 can't even manage 1080p when the Switch is docked. Yeah, that's right, when it's docked. But it gets worse than that. I've been saying that I thought the Switch really comes into its own as a handheld, and I still think that's probably going to be the case. But Splatoon 2 may be showing us the console's limitations there too, as it's running with dynamic resolution, and that, as Digital Foundry said, looks to be where we're heading with the Switch with portability. So it looks like a lot of the games, when in portable mode, are going to run with a dynamic resolution. And so in handheld mode, the resolution drops to a meager 548p, according to the guys over there at Digital Foundry. And I think a few other people have said something similar as well with their testing. It looks like the resolution is dropping down pretty low. Now, obviously, this could just be down to the fact that the test fire is basically a beta. So, in effect, we could be looking at this improving over time. So, once the game comes around to being launched later this year, this may well be sorted out. We don't know. I certainly have my doubts. I actually think we're starting to see the limitations of the Tegra X1 chip. And, people like me who own the NVIDIA Shield, we're usually pretty impressed with it. But none of us would claim that it's a home console powerhouse when you compare it to the PS4 or the Xbox One. It simply hasn't got the same level of power as those other two consoles. And if you see games that run at 1080p on the Xbox One and the PS4, they drop to 720p on the Shield. I'm thinking of Tomb Raider, for instance. So, that being the case, why would we expect it to be any better for the Switch? It's not going to fare any better for the Switch, simply because basically it's running on the same tech. As an aside, the Shield has other advantages. It's superior when it comes to streaming Netflix and Amazon when you compare it to the PS4 and the Xbox One, for instance. And it can stream games from PC as well, which is something that it's actually quite a nice option to have. If you're a big PC gamer, it's a way of getting your PC games into the lounge. But the Switch is not going to be able to do that, and it's not got Netflix or Amazon at the moment. And so even if it does manage to handle those very well, if it ever gets those services, that's not really its primary selling point, is it? It would be nice to have those things, but it's not in the same space as the NVIDIA Shield, which people like me have bought primarily as a streaming device for Netflix and Amazon Prime and stuff like that. And it's excellent as an emulation device as well. And we're not going to see emulation on the Switch anytime soon, are we? Well, let's be honest, we're never going to see emulation on the Switch. Unless you count Nintendo allowing us to play old games on the system, which in effect will be emulation, but it will be a drip feed as we usually get from Nintendo. Switch does seem to fare a little bit better when you look at the game Snake Pass, which is coming for, well, basically virtually every platform. And again, Digital Foundry found that it worked pretty well on the platform, and they were fairly impressed with it. But its visuals are noticeably softer on the Switch. And I did note a few things. The details are not as good on the Switch. And it has to be noted that there's not much going on in the game. If you compare it to something like Splatoon, which is a fast-paced shooter, then obviously something like Snake Pass is not going to need the power because of so little happening at any given time. It looks lovely, it has to be said, on whatever platform you look at it. But it doesn't really have the need for the power that something like Splatoon 2 may well need. And again, this is not something that bodes well for the platform moving forward. If you're looking at fast-paced games, then, as I say, and I keep repeating it, it does look like we're looking at the limitations of the hardware here. You know, I know Nintendo fanboys are going to be crying foul for me saying that, but you can't hide from the facts. There are hardware limitations to all platforms, and we pretty much know what they are at this stage for the Tegra X1. Good developers are going to be able to squeeze every last drop of performance from the system. We know that, they always do. And they'll get better as time passes. We always know towards the end of a generation we see better looking games and better visuals on those games. So that probably will happen with the Switch if it hangs around long enough. But the fact is that however good a developer is, he's not a wizard or an alchemist. You know, you can't turn a Tegra X1 into a GeForce 1080, no matter what you do. As I say, this may well be down to the fact that we're seeing early code, and the final version may well run smoothly at 1080p 30 when docked, and 720p 30 when in handheld mode. But given what we've seen with Zelda and other titles so far, well, frankly, I'm inclined to doubt it. I continue to say this, and I get some ridiculous and nonsensical assertions by ignorant fanboys saying things like the Switch isn't underpowered. But when you compare it to the competition in the home console space, it simply is underpowered. Nobody would claim that the Nvidia Shield was as powerful as the PS4 or the Xbox One. So why would anyone claim that the Switch is? It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. But what's more worrying for me is that Splatoon 2 may actually be showing us that the Switch isn't quite the powerhouse that people like me were hoping for as a handheld either. As ever, time will tell, obviously. But I do worry for the system when it comes to power. And I know some people don't care about power, and I'm going to get people coming in and saying that I'm a graphics whore or something. But that's not the case. You know, if you're looking at power limitations, you're looking at limitations as to what can be ported to the system. So, you know, it looks quite good that we've got Snake Pass, which is running on the Unreal Engine, but not much is happening. And maybe there will be limitations to games that run on the Unreal Engine when they're ported to the Switch, when there's more going on screen. I hope that's not the case. I hope that this test fire of Splatoon 2 isn't showing us limitations of the Switch that I was hoping wouldn't be there. But, you know, I think it is. I really do. But what do you guys think? Come and let me know in the comments and we'll have a discussion about it. Hopefully it'll be reasonable and we won't all start shouting at each other. And in the meantime, I'm going to do my usual. You know what that is. I'm going to go and get myself a cup of tea. And I'll speak to you in the next one. Bye.